Draft at the Barclays Center 2 weeks from tonight. I'm Chris Hassel, joined by our three mock general managers, Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein, and Kyle Boone. The Orlando Magic are picking first. Tim's going like this because he paid off our producer Noah for the top pick. So away you go, Timmy.
Yeah, for the first pick in the 2022 NBA draft, he only has one name. And to only have one name is something special. You know, it's like Madonna, right? Chet is his name. I'm going with Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga. 117 blocks last season for the 7-footer. And Chris, I'm confident you know what he's going to do? Put on weight, because that's the big question mark around him. Can he add to his frame? Because clearly he can block shots. He can defend at the next level. He shot nearly 40% from three. His offensive skill set is already NBA ready, but the biggest question mark is going to be the strength, right? And when I see him, I think of immediately Kristaps Porzingis. When Porzingis was drafted by Phil Jackson, that's right, Phil Jackson of the New York Knicks, everyone said, oh, this guy's going to get pushed around. Well, what has Porzingis done? He's changed his body. You know, go Google Porzingis' body. And it's not weird to Google that, okay? I've done that multiple times. I think Holmgren's going to put on the weight. And more importantly, let's dive a little bit deeper. Last year, the Orlando Magic took Jalen Suggs from Minnehaha High School, okay? Same high school as Chet Holmgren. You can't not take the guy because they're high school teammates. They're going to bring them together, bring synergy, and hopefully, Chris, bring W's to the Orlando Magic.
I mean, how do you follow that? I mean, not just Minnehaha, but also grassroots sizzle on the Under Armour circuit. And of course, they both played at Gonzaga. But I agree. I think Chet's the top prospect in this draft. I think he's got the highest upside, the rim protection ability, the efficiency as a finisher, which is the part that most people don't talk about, not just by the eye test, but by the metrics as well. And then the perimeter skill set when you talk about his shooting ability. And also, I think, an underrated ability to handle and pass the ball, being able to start the break and play in two-man action. So I know there's a lot of talk about Jabari Smith at this spot, but I think Chet Holmgren should be the top pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, and just to add to Finkelstein's point here, he is one of the analytics darlings of this draft class. 99th percentile last season as a true freshman at Gonzaga, scoring around the basket. He was top 10 nationally in block rate. One of only two players in all of college basketball last season to average at least 14 points and 3.5 blocks per game. He has elite defensive upside. So much potential as a big man to develop into, I think, something special. Yes, he's small, as Tim pointed out here. I think it's absolutely concerned about how he's going to hold up in the NBA, but a guy who has, as high a ceiling as any prospect in this draft. He's top 2 prospect on the CBS Sports big board. Have no problem taking here at number 1.
That would be an upset, as you saw, plus 310 to be the number 1 pick. Jabari Smith, the favorite to go number 1 at minus 430 at Caesars Sportsbook. So at number 2, Oklahoma City would, I would guess, Adam, take Jabari?
Yeah, I think Sam Presti is just going to take whichever one of those two guys that are left on the board. And in this scenario, it is Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith has probably the best fit to the modern day game in terms of being a highly switchable defender at 6'10" with elite shot making ability, and not just open shots, but also tough shots. He's also got a rapid rate of improvement when you talk about the gains he made this year at Auburn. You see the athleticism there. He actually wasn't known as an explosive athlete in high school, was someone who was very much still growing into his body. Wasn't even known as an elite three-point shooter. He had shooting potential, but both physically and with his skill set, we just saw tremendous growth this season at Auburn. You put it all together, and I think he will be the number 2 pick to OKC if he is still on the board.
Yeah, and I love his potential as an elite shooter, Adam. I really think that he is potentially the best 3-and-D player in this draft, and I know that's weird to kind of think of as for someone from the power forward position, but one of the best knockdown shooters in this draft class. Auburn coach Bruce Pearl called him one of the best jump shooting bigs in college basketball the last decade. I think that's right. I'm a little bit concerned about the diversity in which he's going to make shots. You know, a lot of the shots that he made last season were off dribble jumpers, taking one dribble and jumping into a shot, or even just catching and shooting. I think the right fit is going to be important for him. But at number 2, for the Thunder, they already have Josh Giddey. They already have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2 guys who I think are elite setup guys. the fit here with Oklahoma City, I think, is perfect. So if he's still on the board at number 2, I think he's their guy.
Yeah, and what a great situation to go to. Great point there, Kyle. As far as guys that are emerging, I think Giddey has all-star potential. I think SGA is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. So you come into a system right now where you just go out there and do your job, which is bang down open shots, guard the pick and roll, rebound, block shots. He set a freshman record at Auburn for most threes made. I mean, that's crazy to think about, a guy who played kind of the 4/5, but I see this being an amazing fit if, big question mark, Hassel, if Jabari Smith slides to 2. I think it's a good fit for Chet too, because Chet kind of has the same skill set. If you play with Giddey, Giddey's going to get the ball in the right spot. So I think if either one of those guys end up at OKC, they're going to have a nice career.
Chet goes 1 to the Magic, and it's Jabari Smith, number 2, to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have 3 first-round picks. Up next at 3, the Houston Rockets, who have 2 first-round picks. They also have pick number 17 coming up. But Kyle, who do you have them taking number 3?
Yeah, number 3 for the Rockets, I'm going to take Paolo Banchero from Duke. This is a guy who was one of the best players in all of college basketball in the mid-range last season, 88th percentile as a mid-range scorer. Duke ran its offense through him a lot. They popped him up to the elbows, kind of allowed him to decision-make and kind of process the defense. His playmaking is something that is really undervalued, and I think really impressive about him projecting to the NBA. This is a guy who grew up playing guard. He had a growth spurt just before high school, like 6 inches, but this is a guy who has guard skills. At 6'10", he runs the floor at a really high level. He's a guy who can grab rebounds and run transition. His playmaking is really good. Would like to see him improve his three-point shot maybe just a little bit. But the touch that he's shown on floaters, on runners, in the mid-range, I think it's all going to translate to him eventually developing that. Really like the idea of adding Paolo Banchero, an elite big man prospect who I think is realistically in play at number 1, to a young Rockets core that last year drafted Jalen Green at number 2, one of the most athletic shooting guards in the NBA right now. So really like the fit here, the value, cannot pass him up at number 3.
Yeah, I think the Rockets are one of the harder teams to handicap, guys, because there's talent, but what is their identity? Good luck trying to get the ball from Kevin Porter and Jalen Green. These are young guys right now who maybe lack a certain basketball IQ. And I think the interesting thing about Paolo is the talent is there. Kyle just touched upon it, to be a 1 or 2. But where's the drive? Where's the energy? Where's the effort? Where is the I'm the best player on the floor? Now, we saw it at times emerge in the NCAA tournament, but Houston's just a really difficult place to play right now because they have no clear-cut identity. The guy's immensely talented, averaged almost 18 points a game, but I don't know. I'm kind of waiting and seeing here with that approach. He's one of those guys that if he ends up averaging like 9 points a game over the course of his NBA career, I would not be surprised at him.
Well, I will respectfully disagree, and I think that's what's so fun about the draft. I think he's going to be the leader to be the Rookie of the Year. I think he's got one of the higher floors in this draft. I go back to watching him since he was a freshman in high school. He was arguably the best freshman prospect in the country at that point. He was arguably the best freshman in college basketball this year. He's been better than Chet and Jabari at every step along the way, and in my opinion, he should be getting some looks in the top 2. But that's what makes the draft so much fun, is that there's such a wide range of opinions when you're talking about projecting these guys' futures. And that's really what we're doing here.
But most people agree it's those guys 1, 2, 3. Chet goes 1, Jabari goes 2, and Paolo goes 3. Things start to get interesting here at number 4 with the Sacramento Kings. And Kyle, you have this pick as well.
Yeah, number 4 for the Kings, I'm going to select Jaden Ivy. And here's the deal with Jaden Ivy to number 4 for the Kings. I really don't love the fit. They already have Davion Mitchell. They already have De'Aaron Fox. But 2 things here. Number 1, if this actually worked, it would maybe be the fastest, most explosive backcourt in the entire NBA. And number 2, you're the Kings. You're at number 4 for a reason. You're not very good. You need to just take the best talent available. That is Jaden Ivy to me. He is the number 1 prospect in this class, according to yours truly. I really like his burst, his athleticism, his ability, to be a true initiator at the NBA level. As a sophomore this past season, he improved 10 percentage points from the three-point range. I think he can be a really good shooter and creator at the NBA level. A little bit worried about the fit, obviously, but I think if you're the Kings, you can't worry so much about fit. You just have to take the best talent. To me, at number 4, that is Jaden Ivy.
All right, he is the number 1 ranked recruit at CBSSports.com. I said recruit, I mean prospect in the NBA draft. Let's round out the top 5, Tim. You're picking for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I think the Pistons have the biggest upside of all these teams drafting so early in the draft. I mean, they went on a stretch last year where they covered 20 out of 23 games. Why does it always turn to gambling with me? All right, it matters, okay? I was betting the Pistons and I was making a lot of money. My point is they are showing promise and will play alongside of Cade Cunningham. I think a great fit is going to be Ben Mathurin out of Arizona. He's 6'6", shot over 40% from 3. I believe he can guard right away at the NBA level. And the Pistons, with guys like Bay, Stewart, there's an exciting thing going on right now in Detroit. I think they're going to be borderline a play-in team next year. Mathurin had a breakthrough year. He's an explosive athlete. And I think Cade Cunningham is a perennial all-star. So what an amazing fit for Mathurin. I'm believing the hype, guys. Am I crazy?
Yeah, Tim, you're crazy. This is really aggressive for Mathurin at number 5. I really think that Mathurin could be available in like the 10 to 14 range. So if you're the Pistons and you believe Mathurin is your guy, trade down, try and get some value. I agree with you. This is a really safe bet. This is a really good fit next to Cade Cunningham. Absolutely, you should prioritize that. I think Mathurin's a really elite knockdown shooter. Showed some stuff off the bounce as a creator at Arizona this last season that I think can obviously translate to the NBA. But at number 5, I think Shaedon Sharpe should be in the mix here. Keegan Murray should be in the mix here. There are other prospects who I would prefer to take. With all due respect, Tim, I think it's a fine pick, but it's a little bit aggressive for me.
With all due respect, Tim, you're crazy, is what Kyle Boone just said. Kyle, not the first, second, third, or last to call Tim Doyle crazy here on CBS Sports HQ. Let's move to number 6, and it's the Pacers. Adam, you're the GM for Indiana.
Well, if I'm the GM, I am running to the podium to take Keegan Murray if he is still available at number 6, because I think he's got a chance to go as high as number 4 to the Kings. I think he arguably fits better than Jaden Ivy there. Keegan Murray was also potentially the best player in college basketball last season. He's a guy who's ready to come in and make an immediate impact. He's also someone who can score without needing to be an offensive focal point. You don't have to run a ton of plays for him. He can stretch the floor. He can post up. He can also take it off the glass and start the break. He has made tremendous strides in each of the last 3 seasons. We're talking about someone who only had one Division I scholarship offer as a senior in high school. And 3 years later, he was the best player in college basketball. I'm very interested to see how versatile he becomes. Is he someone who can switch? Can he become a big wing, or does he just stay as kind of a prototypical 4-man? That, to me, is the key kind of swing variable in determining what his upside is. But he is as high character as they get, and I think Indiana would be thrilled to get him at number 6.
Let's round out the first half of the lottery here with the Portland Trailblazers picking at number 7. Kyle?
Yeah, and I'm going to take Shaedon Sharpe. Thank you, Tim, for allowing him to slip to number 7. To me, this is just a screaming value. Shaedon Sharpe, number 5 on the CBS Sports big board. Now, Shaedon Sharpe, a year ago, number 1 recruit in the 2022 recruiting class, re-enrolled at Kentucky and did not play. I think that's the huge concern. The fact that we haven't seen him in over a year, I think, is problematic. He's the mystery man of the NBA draft. With the athleticism, as a leaper, he can create separation, score at a really high level. Really like his upside, his long-term future in the NBA. I think if you're the Trailblazers, you're just kind of betting on upside here. Shaedon Sharpe at number 7, I think, has the highest potential ceiling in the NBA draft, and the athleticism, the size, all of that, I think, to me, is going to translate to potential stardom at the NBA level. And at number 7, this is someone who I just can't pass up.
This would be an amazing fit because, where are the Trailblazers going right now? Bye-bye to CJ McCollum. He's down in New Orleans, right? The Damian Lillard, winning playoff games era is over. And it's really an unknown, just like Sharpe, like a massive unknown. But the talent is clearly there. Is it going to translate? I don't know. I wasn't at the workouts. But you got to believe in, what Adam and Kyle and people who have dove into this kid over the last couple of years see. His favorite player is Kobe Bryant. He grew up playing other sports. His birthplace is in Canada. He's a hockey player. put down the hockey stick. We want to see if you could dribble, my man, because if you can, we know that you could clearly get to the rim and you could shoot it from deep. But if he falls here, Hassel, it's a team of unknowns and it's a kid who's an unknown.
All right, let's recap the first half of the lottery here as we get through our second mock draft here on CBS Sports HQ with 2 weeks to go. Chet, Jabari, Paolo, 1, 2, 3. Big surprise at number 5, Tim Doyle selecting Benedict Mathurin for the Pistons at number 5, and then Keegan Murray and Shaedon Sharpe are on the clock. Mock Draft 2.0 special here on CBS Sports HQ continues. Chet Holmgren went number 1. That would be an upset because Jabari Smith is the favorite to go number 1 at minus 430. He goes number 2 to Oklahoma City. Benedict Mathurin sneaks into the top 5. Tim Doyle selecting him for the Pistons at number 5. Keegan Murray to the Pacers. Shaedon Sharpe was the last off the board to the Blazers at number 7. Chris Hassel, joined by our 3 mock general managers, Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein, and Kyle Boone. The Pelicans are up at 8. Tim, you're playing the role of the Pels GM.
Yeah, I mean, a difficult job, right? Because is Zion going to play? And is Zion going to put down the old knife and fork? Because if he gets in shape, we're talking about maybe one of the top 10 players in the NBA. And I really believe that in my heart. He is a changed game changer when he's on the floor and when he's in shape. What college? Duke. Brandon Ingram. What college? Duke. And where am I going with this selection? You guessed it, Duke. And I'm going to go with AJ Griffin, who shot over 40% from 3. And when you're playing with guys like Zion, you have to have guys that are able to space the floor. Now, nearly half his made field goals this year were 3-point shots. So he's a D&3 guy automatically. He's got great size, got great pedigree. His dad, Adrian Griffin, former NBA player, obviously has been a coach throughout the NBA, so he's got a high basketball IQ. I think he immediately has an impact on this squad because of his skill set. Go guard another good player and stand in the corner, and when we throw you the ball, go out there and make it. Now, a lot of the scouts say he's more than that because we didn't get a chance to see that because there's so many other good players on Duke that he was just asked to do a very particular role. Well, that's what they asked you to do in the NBA, a very particular role. I see him being an ideal fit, and Griffin and Duke and the Pelicans all make sense.
Yeah, I agree he's going to be in the mix here because the Pelicans need shooting. AJ provided shooting at a really high level for Duke last year. I am admittedly skeptical than most. I don't think I'm concerned about his foot speed, about his athleticism that was candidly much better in high school. He's had some injuries and he just hasn't moved or exploded the same way. He doesn't have much shot creation ability. Defensively, I think there's a lot of question marks there. And even the release itself, I admittedly like a little bit bigger of a sample size for a guy who was not considered an elite shooter in high school and has a bit of an unorthodox release before I'm buying him as an elite floor spacer and shot maker at the NBA level, despite the gains we saw last year. But I know somebody disagrees with me.
Yeah, and that would be me. Yeah, for my money, I think he's the best shooting wing in the NBA draft. He was 91st percentile last season at Duke as a spot-up shooter. Tim mentioned he's above 40% shooting from the three-point line. His release, his base is absolutely unorthodox. He's got that big wide stance from which he shoots, but he's a smart cutter. Duke ran him off screens. He was really efficient running off screens, shooting on the move. Saw some stuff, at least in spurts, where he's creating off the dribble. I think he's really polished overall. And yes, I think there's absolutely concerns with him and his athleticism being maybe a little bit better in high school than what we saw at Duke. Have to keep in mind, he started the season at Duke injured, kind of worked his way back into the mix, was obviously taking a back seat to Paolo Banchero. At this spot in the draft, I think AJ Griffin is a really good pick. The Pels were among the worst in the NBA last season in three-point shooting. AJ Griffin obviously fits an absolute need here for the Pelicans.
All right, let's move on to number 9 then. The San Antonio Spurs guys picking their first of 3 first-round draft picks. Adam?
Well, we're going to stick with Duke. And while I'm a little down on AJ Griffin, I am very high on Mark Williams. And so this is going to be aggressive with the 9th pick in the draft, especially with Dyson Daniels still on the board. But Mark Williams is just a giant. I mean, he's a guy who can dunk without barely leaving his feet. His measurements were off the chart at the NBA Combine. His efficiencies last year at Duke, not only as a finisher, but also as a rim protector, were phenomenal. But beyond that, he's really someone that I believe has untapped potential. He shot over 72% from the free throw line last year. I think long term, he's going to have some floor spacing potential. That is something we've seen over the years. Big men who were not allowed to stretch the floor in college, who end up becoming able to shoot threes down the road in the NBA career. I think that's what you're going to get out of Mark Williams. We already know he's an elite finisher, rim protector with tremendous size and length. That's why I'm willing to take a flyer on him here at the 9th spot to a San Antonio team that already has a lot of long-term stocks on the perimeter.
Yeah, I think that Adam makes a lot of great points. The scary part now in the draft is, do you want to draft kind of a old school type of center? But which teams can do that, guys? I'll tell you right now, Greg Popovich can do that. Like, he's got enough JU ice that he can go out there and draft a 7'1" center. He's coached some pretty good centers, I would say, his day, to say the least. And now you got the old Jakob Poeltl, who's turned into a pretty good NBA player. So, like, if I'm Mark Williams, yes, this is like a major win. The pros is all about going to the right fit. Play alongside the right guys, the right organization, guys that know how to coach big guys, right style of play. I know that Popovich isn't playing the old traditional two big guys, but this would be a giant win for Williams if he ends up with San Antonio.
A couple more picks for the Spurs coming up. Let's move on to number 10. The Washington Wizards, Tim, and they've got Bradley Beal, at least as of now. What else do they have, and who do they have with the 10th pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Johnny Davis here. I think he's the best available and really took a huge step in his game last year at Wisconsin. You know what the guy can do? Score. And at the end of the shot clock in the NBA, it's really hard to just throw the guy the ball at 6 and be like, all right, buddy, like, go make something happen. Now, he wore down as the season wore on. I don't think he was at 100% and was not playing his best basketball in March, but what a great team to go to and learn from a guy like Bradley Beal. I don't know if he's got that same upside, but Bradley Beal coming out of Florida is not the same Bradley Beal that we see now. It's getting you almost 30 points a night. So I think Davis could be an 18, 19 point a game scorer. I see a lot of Norman Powell in his game. Just go out there and get buckets. So may not be the best fit, but best available right now.
All college players in our top 10. Moving to 11, Kyle, the New York Knicks are taking who?
Yeah, I'm going to take Dyson Daniels from the G League Ignite. There's really a lot to like with Dyson Daniels. He measured 6'8" with a 6'10" wingspan at the NBA Draft Combine. He's one of the best, I think, on-ball defenders in the NBA Draft in this class. And then the passing, the playmaking that we saw in the G League Ignite, I think is really impressive too. Reminds me a little bit of Josh Giddey. He's not just a good passer. He's a guy who anticipates passes as they come, kind of are able to make really high-level passing reads. This is a guy who I think can be used as an initiator at the NBA level. Obviously has the size, I think, to be a really good wing, but the shooting, I think, needs to improve. I think overall, if I'm betting on someone who has the physical tools and the high IQ, Dyson Daniels to me is someone that I'm willing to take a chance on. The Knicks obviously need some help in a number of different areas. I think Dyson Daniels can kind of add some depth to their backcourt, some passing, some playmaking, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, if Dyson Daniels slips to 11, this is a potential major steal because I think he's got a chance to go as high as 6, depending on how the draft shakes out. But he's also an ideal building block because he's multi-positional, and so he can play with a variety of different players. He's got a terrific combination of perimeter size, versatility, passing, and defense. So this would be a home run for the Knicks if this is the way it shakes out.
Okay. Oklahoma City also has 3 picks in this first round. Oklahoma City took Jabari Smith 2nd overall. They also have the 30th pick. Adam, who do you have them taken here at 12?
Well, I'm going to go with Jeremy Sohan, and I know it seems a little bit counterintuitive because he and Smith both play that 4 spot, but this is a player coming out of Baylor who I believe is one of the more versatile in the draft. He can guard as many positions as anybody in this field. Has some potential to play as a small ball 5-man. He's got an elite personality. Like, the energy level is just out of this world, and he has a basketball IQ to match. So you combine all those things, the versatility, the personality, the basketball IQ, the ability to defend multiple positions. I think he's got untapped potential as a front court facilitator. You can plug him anywhere you want in the lineup. And so I think if he's available at 12, this is really good value for OKC.
All right, into the teens we go. And the Charlotte Hornets, they have picks 13 and 15. Tim, you'll be picking for the Hornets in this mock. Who do you have them taking at 13?
Yeah, I got Ochai Agbaji going to the Hornets. One thing Charlotte does not do is guard. And here is an elite perimeter defender who has made a three-pointer for Kansas in 53 consecutive games. So when you're playing alongside LaMelo Ball, right, you want to have guys that are able to space the floor. You also want to have guys that complement maybe not his strength of guarding the other team's best guard. So I don't think he's going to be an immediate impact NBA player, but I think he's going to have a very strong role and a very long career. I see this being a nice fit in Charlotte.
Gary Parrish has him as one of the late draft fallers at this point, but Agbaji going 13 to Charlotte. At number 14, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kyle?
I'm going to select Malachi Branham from Ohio State. The Cavs obviously have several foundational pieces. Darius Garland at the guard spot, the two bigs in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I think Branham is a guy who can really fit into what they have going right now on the wing. Shot 43% the second half of the season for Ohio State. Has really good positional size. I think, and a really good scorer at the next level. Showed that off at Ohio State. I think he needs to improve his defense. That's why he could end up slipping to the back half of the lottery, maybe late into the teens. But this is a guy who has really good potential as an offensive weapon. So at number 14, I'll take him here for the Cavs.
All right, so we have the lottery in place now in our mock draft 2.0. Chet Holmgren goes number 1 to the Magic, followed by Jabari Smith to the Thunder. So Thunder also take Jeremy Sohan at 12. Duke leading the way with 3 lottery picks, beginning with Paolo Banchero at number 3 to the Houston Rockets. Our On the Clock special continues. We just picked the lottery. Chet Holmgren went number 1 to the Magic, followed by Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero. Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona goes 5 to the Pistons. That would be a big surprise. Many of our experts think you could get Mathurin somewhere in the teens, maybe even late teens, potentially 20. 3 Duke players go in the lottery, the most of any college team. The first 10 picks were all college players. Dyson Daniels, the first professional player, number 11 to the Knicks. Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein, and Kyle Boone are our 3 mock general managers. Tim, you selected Ochai Agbaji, number 13 for the Hornets, and you're up again at 15.
Yeah, I talked about the Hornets' style of play, okay? One of the worst defensive teams in the entire NBA, but man, they're fun to watch, aren't they? They score a lot of points. LaMelo's in transition, but LaMelo's never had a big, right, who could just throw it up to him. Jalen Duren's available. Oh, give me him at 6'11", wildly athletic, led this Memphis team in scoring. I know it wasn't really impressive, but he also led the conference in rebounding and block shots. And what a great situation where all you need to do, young fella, is rebound, set screens, and dunk, because LaMelo is going to be able to break you off. I got the shooting with Agbaji, and now I add in Duren. I think this is a nice piece to complement this squad that's getting better. But Hassel, they got to guard somebody. They don't play any defense.
Yeah, this is a good pick, Tim. I hate to admit it's a good pick. I think Duren is a really bouncy big. Obviously, he's going to be a lob threat. He was absolutely that at Memphis. Gives LaMelo like a huge target just to throw and go finish stuff around the rim. Last season, he was 98th percentile defending around the rim for Memphis. So to your point, they're looking to upgrade their defense. Their defense was not good. They need to add some front court depth. He checks all of those boxes. I think if you're the Hornets, this is a no-brainer. If he's on the board here, a guy who's an absolute monster, protecting the rim, a lob threat, going to do a little bit of everything for the Hornets, like this pick at number 15.
Duren and Agbaji, the 2 picks in the teens from Tim Doyle and Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets. We're halfway home now, 16, the Atlanta Hawks. Adam?
Well, we are going to go with one of my favorite guys in the draft, Dalen Terry from Arizona, who came into the draft considered a fringe first-round pick, but he has helped himself more than anyone in the pre-draft process for a couple of reasons. First of all, again, he's versatile because he's got terrific positional size and can defend and play 1 through 3. The reason he can play 1 through 3 He's a terrific passer for his size. And what you saw right there is very authentic. He is a personality. He's known as one of the most competitive players to come through the Arizona program in recent years. And that's according to both of the coaching staffs he has played under in his 2 years there. So while this is a little higher than you will see on most mock drafts, I think Dalen Terry is a prospect that is higher on NBA boards than most in the public realize because of that overlap of size, competitiveness, versatility, and passing ability.
The one and only pick for the Atlanta Hawks, who underperformed last season. Let's move to the Houston Rockets at 17. They took Paolo Banchero, number 3. Kyle, who do you have him taken at 17?
Yeah, I'll take Ty Washington here, the guard from Kentucky. This is a really lethal combo guard. Coming out of Kentucky last season, ended his season a little bit injured. I think we saw some athleticism kind of zap away from him down the stretch, but this is a guy who's a really good three-point shooter, can space the floor. Saw some stuff last season at Kentucky where he's kind of initiating the offense. Obviously was not the lead guard for Kentucky. They already had a lead guard, but really like his playmaking ability. His combo guard skills, I think, is going to translate to the NBA level. Really like his touch, shooting floaters, can play on or off the ball. I think the value here, this is a guy who I have as a top 10 prospect on my board. Getting him at number 17 for the Rockets. Very pleased to get him in this spot.
You know what? It's not just a good value, but it's a good fit too, because you're talking about a guy who brings versatility to play both guard positions and also can space the floor. And given some of the dynamic creators Houston has, especially in their backcourt, that is going to be a welcomed complementary skill set. So I really like the fit. My big concern is with the roster shaking out the way it is, especially in this mock draft, who's going to guard anybody in Houston?
Nobody of late, anyway, in Houston, that's for sure. Worst team in the NBA the last couple of seasons. Let's go to the Bulls at 18. Tim, you're a Chicago guy now, living just outside the city. Big question marks. You got free agency beginning in a couple of weeks, and we don't know if Zach LaVine's going to be back. He's an unrestricted free agent. Who do you have the Bulls going with here at 18?
Yeah, this is where my scouting ability, when I sit in the stands with my little yellow pad, I don't sit in the stands. I call games, okay? And Hassel and I have called some exciting games. We saw Colin Sexton almost win a game playing with 3 players against Minnesota, and you had to know then and there, Chris, that guy was a special talent. Well, I saw Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara up close and personal embarrass, I repeat, embarrass TCU. You remember TCU in the tournament? Made some pretty good noise. Almost snuck into the Sweet 16. They were a team that clearly got better. And what are they known for? Their defense with Jamie Dixon. I think Williams is an exceptional offensive player. I think he could be a 15-point-a-game scorer in the NBA. He could put the ball on the floor, shot 50, 40, and 80% from the free throw line. He is a shot maker. He's not intimidated, plays with great pace. When I saw him, I called my friends that are scouts in the NBA, and I said, this guy is a first-round pick. Now, he'd be the first Santa Clara player drafted since Steve Nash. Remember, he used to always lick his hair and put it behind. I don't lick the hair before the show, Hassel, but sometimes I would do it with the eyebrows.
Yeah, this is the fastest rising prospect in the NBA draft right now. Jalen Williams is a guy who was a 3-year player out of Santa Clara. He had a really strong combine where he measured 6'6", 7'2" wingspan. Last season was 97th percentile as a spot-up shooter. He was a star at the college level. Has been overlooked, I think, for the most part during this NBA draft process, but the last month has really risen up boards. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. This is a guy who's going to be a really good role player in the NBA. His length, his shooting, his ability to just kind of do a little bit of everything on offense is going to be a factor in the NBA. So I like this pick, Tim. I think this is a good value.
Tim starting to put the old makeup on. What's up, Tim?
No, I was just saying that, like if Steve Nash licked the fingers and put the hair, but this is what I do before the show. Get a little, take the shine off the forehead.
Nobody wears more makeup, and nobody puts in more hair mousse than Tim Doyle. Okay, into the 20s we go, and it's San Antonio once again. They took Duke's Mark Williams 9th. Adam, you're also picking 25th, but who are you going with here at 20?
Well, if I am being entrusted by the San Antonio brain trust here, clearly I can't take 2 American college players in a row, so I'm going to go international for Ousmane Dieng. And this is going to keep with a similar theme with my first pick in Mark Williams, and that I really think when you look at the long-term prospect on San Antonio's roster, they've got a lot more upside in the backcourt. Jang gives them a high upside player in the front court because you're talking about someone who's got terrific positional size at 6'10" and a really good skill set to match. You're watching him shoot the ball here, but believe it or not, he is a better handler and passer than he is a shooter. So you're talking about a versatile and complete skill set at his size. If he can adapt the physicality of the NBA game and really utilize his mobility defensively, which it looks like he's going to be able to do, this is a long-term prospect with a very high ceiling, and that means somebody who can really hit. And if you get that in the 20s, that is tremendous value for the Spurs.
First true international player in our mock draft at number 20. Okay, into the 20s we go, and it's San Antonio once again. They took Duke's Mark Williams 9th. Adam, you're also picking 25th, but who are you going with here at 20?
Well, if I am being entrusted by the San Antonio brain trust here, clearly I can't take two American college players in a row, so I'm going to go international for Ousmane Dieng. And this is going to keep with a similar theme with my first pick in Mark Williams, and that I really think when you look at the long-term prospect on San Antonio's roster, they've got a lot more upside in the backcourt. Jang gives them a high upside player in the front court because you're talking about someone who's got terrific positional size at 6'10" and a really good skill set to match. You're watching him shoot the ball here, but believe it or not, he is a better handler and passer than he is a shooter. So you're talking about a versatile and complete skill set at his size. If he can adapt the physicality of the NBA game and really utilize his mobility defensively, which it looks like he's going to be able to do, this is a long-term prospect with a very high ceiling, and that means somebody who can really hit. And if you get that in the 20s, that is tremendous value for the Spurs.
First true international player in our mock draft at number 20. Let's move to the Nuggets at 21. Kyle?
Yeah, I'll select LSU's Tari Eason, combo forward out of LSU. Measured 7'2" wingspan. This is a guy who reminds me a lot of Jeremy Sohan from Baylor, a guy who almost went 10 picks earlier than this. Love the value here. He's a disruptive, really dynamic defender. Offensively, I think there's some questions. He absolutely needs to add some polish, but only played 2 years at the college level. I think there's a lot of room for growth here. And even if there are some questions on offense, we've seen some guys who are elite defenders in years past make early differences in the NBA. Guys like Herb Jones, Matisse Thybulle. I think his defense is on that same level. He is a havoc wreaker. Still needs to improve the shot, obviously, but I really like Tari Eason's long-term value. Would be shocked if he's on the board here. I think he has lottery potential, but 21 for the Nuggets. I think this is a guy who can come in and make a difference right away.
I would agree with that. I think that the big thing with Tari here is he was willing to come off the bench last year at LSU. So after a freshman season at Cincinnati where he was kind of underwhelming, to show the unselfishness for Will Wade last year to come off the bench and make the impact he did really speaks to what type of role player he could be in the NBA, given all those characteristics you just mentioned.
All right, Memphis Grizzlies are up next at 22. They also have the 29th pick. And who's making this selection? Tim, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to go best available at this spot, and I'm going to take Blake Wesley. I think that the upside from the freshman guard at Notre Dame, is tremendous. And what a great organization to go to in Memphis. Seems like they groom guards pretty well, huh? How's the old Ja Morant doing? But it's not just him. DeAnthony Melton has had a nice niche in the NBA. Tyus Jones has found his niche in the Desmond Bane. Go look at his numbers, and they're comparable early in their career to the old Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. My point is, what a great fit. And Wesley's three-point percentage was horrendous, right? It was in the low 30s. But that's because Notre Dame, when the shot clock was running down, was like, yeah, go do something. Like, that's the hardest way to play basketball, is when your teammates go, oh, we can't create on our own. You got to go do it. So I actually thought that ended up hurting his percentages. But he's an explosive athlete. You got to love his length. He attacks the rim. If the shooting improves, or is it really because he was put in bad spots, this guy's going to be an NBA starter one day. And if he's available at this spot with a great organization to go and learn from, he has like Jordan Poole-like ability. So it took a while for Jordan Poole to hit. I think Wesley could be on that same path.
Zipping through our mock draft here on CBS Sports HQ with just a couple of weeks to go until the NBA draft. Recapping our last several picks here from Tim and the gang. Jalen Duren goes number 15 to the Hornets after they took Ochai Agbaji, number 13. Ty Washington to the Rockets at 17. Tari Eason at 21 to the Nuggets, and Kyle Boone made that selection. He said he would not be surprised at all if Eason ends up a lottery pick. Finishing up our on-the-clock special, our NBA first-round mock draft. Chet Holmgren goes number 1 to the Magic. Jabari Smith, the favorite to go number 1, goes 2 to the Thunder. And then Paolo Banchero, 3 to the Rockets. Jaden Ivy is our number 1 ranked prospect at CBSSports.com. He goes 4 to the Kings. Benedict Mathurin, a surprise at 5 to the Pistons, with Keegan Murray going 6 to the Pacers. And our last several picks here in our mock. Dalen Terry, number 16 to the Hawks, their one and only pick in the first round. The Rockets with Ty Washington, and Tari Eason to the Nuggets, followed by Blake Wesley of the Memphis Grizzlies at number 22. So we are up to number 23 and the Brooklyn Nets. Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein, Kyle Boone. I'm Chris Hassel. Adam, you have this pick.
Well, I'm going to go Jaden Hardy. And Hardy is, in my mind, one of the most undervalued prospects in this draft. He was one of the truly elite high school players in the national class before going to the G League Ignite. He ended up leading the Ignite in scoring, although the narrative was that he had a disappointing season. And candidly, he did underperform relative to expectations, especially early on in the season. But we saw him get better as time went on with Ignite. And I think what you're getting is you're getting a microwave type scorer. And how many times did we see Brooklyn say to Kevin Durant, hey, you've got to do it all right now? They could really use another guy who can create space and create his own shot to anchor that second unit. I think that's what Jaden Hardy gives them. And long term, I think you're getting a guy who, and I know this is a bit of a contrarian opinion, has an all-star upside. And if that's available in the 20s, I think you have to go with it.
Let's move to number 24 and the defending champion, at least for now, Milwaukee Bucks, at least for the next week or so. Core is intact. Bobby Portis is a free agent. Tim, who do you have him taking here at 24?
Yeah, this is another guy that I saw live and up close his freshman year at Indiana State. Finished his career at Wake Forest. I'm going to go with Jake LaRavia. At 6'8", he moves extremely well. He's got a high basketball IQ. His body is ready for the NBA. The biggest thing is the shot consistent? That I still don't know. Still shot below 40% from 3 at Wake Forest, but I love the basketball IQ and I love his toughness. So not like Pat Connaughton as far as shooting the 3, but can do a lot of other things well. That's going to be the big question mark with his career. Is he going to play 4 years in the NBA or 12 years in the NBA? It's a matter of, can he make open shots? And how many guys have we seen get to the next level, really work on their game, become better shooters? Because he can actually do everything else, but the jump shot is still a giant question mark. But I think he's best available player. I think he could have a very long career if he learns how to go out there and consistently bang down open shots.
Yeah, and you're adding another weapon next to Giannis. I think that's the most important thing. I think he's a pretty good shooter, Tim. I really buy the shooting. Shot 38.4% from 3 last season. This is a guy who, at Wake Forest, was a really selfless player. A guy who can create off the bounce a little bit. He keeps the ball moving, has a high IQ, really good positional size. Just checks a lot of boxes. He doesn't have, I don't think, star potential, but if you're the Bucks, you've kind of already got your foundation. You've got your stars in place. You want to add some role players to the mix. LaRavia can do a little bit of everything as a shooter, I think, most importantly. So at this spot in the draft, I think you're just trying to get guys who can add value to your team. I think LaRavia can do that here.
All right, Adam, you're up again for the Spurs, their third and final pick here of the first round.
Yeah, so with 3 picks, we're going to go Marjan Beauchamp. And again, he's someone that I am personally high on. I mean, listen, if you're in the 20s, you've got 2 strategies. Do you try and get a rotational guy like a Jake LaRavia who can come in and play on that rookie contract and fit into the salary cap? Or do you go high risk, high reward? Beauchamp is certainly the latter. He is high risk, high reward. I don't know that he will make a big impact next year, I don't think the Spurs need him to make a big impact next year. They've already got a lot of bodies, and they've got 3 first-round picks. So this is a long-term stock where you're betting on him continuing to figure it out. He made significant strides this year with the G League Ignite. We're talking about somebody who bounced around to various high schools throughout his career. No one has ever doubted his talent. He really impressed people at the Combine with how frank he was about some of the growing up he's had to do over the years. And I think that really made an impression on people, and I think he's worth the risk at this spot.
All right, so the haul for the Spurs, Mark Williams, Ousmane Dieng out of France, and now at number 25, Marjan Beauchamp. 26, the Dallas Mavericks. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm going to select Wendell Moore from Duke. This is a guy who has really good positional size, 7-foot wingspan. Saw him last season obviously take a back seat behind Paolo Banchero, but a guy who can play on the wing. He's a really good cutter, runs the transition really well, really smart, kind of high basketball IQ player. Again, at this spot in the draft, you're kind of hoping you can get someone who can be a rotation player. I really think Wendell Moore can be like a really good rotation player at that. So his smarts, his IQ, his selfless play, I think is going to translate to the NBA level. You're adding a potential weapon next to Luka Doncic in Dallas. I think Wendell Moore can be that.
Okay. For 27, the Miami Heat, Tim Doyle making that selection. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with Tim traveling down to South Florida in a couple of weeks. I know he's been looking forward to that little vacay by himself for a while, Tim.
Yeah, and I booked an Airbnb at your house just so because I know you're not going to be in town.
It's not cheap.
You know, here's the deal. You knew you weren't going to be home, and you don't even offer me like, hey, it's a fake offer. It's like inviting someone to hang out when you know
I know
you
would take me up on it if I offered it to.
And not only would I stay at your house, I'd put on your robe, and I would rub all around in your robe because I know you wear that robe.
We're so far off topic here. Who are you taking for the Heat?
Kendall Brown. You know what the Heat like? Guys that can run really fast on like exercise machines. Like you have to be in amazing shape. And this is what I love about Kendall Brown. He's a great defender. He's got excellent size. You can't draft another guy who just shoots jump shots. You have a ton of them in Hero and Duncan Robinson and Strus. Like you need some toughness. You need some versatility. I think that, is he ready to play right now in the NBA? No, but he's an elite level athlete. He can defend. And what a great guy to learn from in Jimmy Butler. I think he has maybe that kind of upside if he puts it all together. I don't know. Just seems like a guy who runs really fast and can lift a lot of weights. My friend Drew Nicholas, I wasn't going to say his name, but he worked out for the Miami Heat. And when he got to the workout, one of the players didn't show, so there was only 3 guys at the workout. So they asked one of the assistant coaches to work out. So Drew sees this guy come on the floor. Drew won a national championship at Maryland. And he said the guy hit him with like a 1-2 crossover real fast, and Drew fell. And obviously the Heat did not draft him, but that coach was Eric Spoelstra, who scored over 1,000 points at Pacific. So those are the type of workouts Kendall Brown's going to have to be looking forward to.
And those are the kind of stories you get from Tim Doyle, selling out his friends and naming names as well. So in the NBA, it's different from the NFL. The draft order is set based on regular season. So Golden State, even though they have a chance to win it all, they're set at that number 28 position. Kyle making the pick.
Yeah, I'm going to take Pat Baldwin Jr. From Milwaukee. I'm going to stop the skid here. I think he goes in the first round. Golden State only has 1 pick in the top 50. So I think you take a kind of a high risk, high reward player. Pat Baldwin Jr. is absolutely that. This is almost 2 years ago. We're talking about Pat Baldwin Jr. as the number 1 recruit in his national recruiting class. He's had a tough couple seasons, only played in a handful of games last year for Milwaukee. His senior year in high school was cut off by injury. But I think if he can regain his form, we're talking about a guy who has an all-star ceiling. And number 28 in this draft, you're really not going to find that. There's a chance that he completely fizzles out, is really just not the prospect that we hoped he could be. But if you're Golden State, I think you're going to take a big swing here at number 28. If Baldwin Jr. is still on the board, fine taking a chance on him as a potential flyer.
All right, the Grizzlies are up again at 29. Tim, you had them taking Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame, 22nd.
Yeah, because of the fit, right? He's going to play alongside of guards that have really developed there in Memphis. And I'm going to go with another guy who, has a big upside, but is a giant question mark, and Walter Kessler out of Auburn. The North Carolina transfer can clearly block shots and defend, but he's a sub 60% free throw shooter. right? So how's he going to be able to stretch the floor? But what a great squad to go to, because you have such unique big guys, right? Steven Adams is kind of that like old plotting big guy, but he has a valuable role and was important in the playoffs. And then you have a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., who, I think is going to be a perennial all-star. So if I'm Kessler, I'm like, whoa, what a great organization to go to learn from two quality bigs and also develop him. Is he going to be an impact player in year number 1? Absolutely not. Will he be an impact player in year number 3? Probably not. But Jakob Hurtel has figured out a role where he's averaging double-digit points and he's a valuable NBA player. I think Kessler could be the same way. If this was like 1987, he'd probably be a top 10 pick. But the game has changed so much. I think this could be an ideal fit, playing alongside some veterans that can kind of teach him the ways.
All right, final pick of the first round and the third pick of the first round for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Adam?
Well, given the amount of picks that Sam Presti has acquired in the next few years, at some point this just becomes about clearing some space on the roster and some prospects you can invest in without taking up a roster spot. And so I'm going to go with Nikola Jovic here. He's got a combination of size and skill that is really intriguing. You see the touch there. The thing specifically that I think is interesting is his ability to pass the ball and facilitate with his size. But again, he's a high risk, high reward proposition, someone that theoretically could stay in Europe and continue to develop, but be able to come over when OKC is poised to really start to turn potential into production with this young roster that they are building.
Yeah, and this is a guy who has elite playmaking skills at his size. A guy who grew up playing guard. He shot up to 6'10", has really good handles, kind of maintains some of those guard skills, really good playmaker. OKC has 4 draft picks in this year's draft, so I think they're going to probably just prioritize taking huge swings. Jovic is a guy who I think developmentally is still a little bit of ways away from being an NBA contributor, but long term, the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say. Really like his upside long term.
As long as the Nuggets don't take him, I'm fine with it. But it is going to make talking NBA a little bit more confusing.
Jovic and Jokic. It's like an SNL skit, huh? Jokic and Jovic.
Hey, Tim, good to have you on with us for the first time for our mock draft. Also, Adam Finkelstein and Kyle Boone with us here. Our mock draft 2.0 on CBS Sports HQ. This is how it all laid out. Chet Holmgren 1 to the Magic, followed by Jabari Smith and Paolo Banchero. Benedict Mathurin, a surprise top 5 pick for the Detroit Pistons. Johnny Davis at number 10 to Washington. The Knicks going with Dyson Daniels, the first non-college basketball player in our mock draft. Not a ton of internationals in this mock draft, and not a ton of internationals expected in the first round of the draft, which is 2 weeks from tonight, June the 23rd, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Patrick Baldwin Jr. went number 28 to the Golden State Warriors. Ion College Basketball Podcast, Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish. They will be talking a ton of NBA draft leading up to everything in just a couple of weeks.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.